Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, and today I will be discussing a very important aspect of writing framing answers for your GS paper 1. So how the knowledge of English literature can enhance your writing skills, can enhance your expressions and give you frame a more answer which has more gravitas, more weightage, more substance vis-a-vis other answers which do not give literary references. So we'll just discuss everything in detail with good examples. Before that, I'm Dr. Anamta Rizvi. I did my PhD from the Department of English, Jamia Millia Islamia. I have recently authored a book with the esteemed Ashchan Publication House, of course, with the subject of English literature. I have around 30-40 articles with the Times of India. My articles have been published with Macmillan Literary Criterion and so on. All right, so this was about me. And I will also be teaching UPSC English Literature optional subject to all my UPSC aspirants. So with that note, let's go ahead with the lesson for the day and how does English literature enhance writing on current affairs like the Palestine-Israel conflict. This conflict, we know it's a very potential question that can come in your exam, considering the escalated war that has been happening since the past 1 year over across the globe, and everybody is affected by that. So considering that as a very hot topic of debate question that can come in your GS paper, I'm talking about GS paper 1, right? So how we can go ahead when you have a good substance of English literature as a knowledge. So we'll quickly jump to the answer. We'll see कि इसका जवाब हम कैसे दे सकते हैं, हम किस तरह से answer frame करेंगे when we have the knowledge of English literature with us, and when we do not include our answers with literary works. We'll compare the two and we'll see कि कौन सा बेहतर लग रहा है. Okay, this you guys will be telling me, right? So let's go ahead with that. So for instance, अगर एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आता है कि पैलेस्टीन इजराइल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट पे कमेंट करना है एंड हाउ किस तरह से वो होगा, सो द क्वेश्चन इज, लेट्स गो अहेड विद द क्वेश्चन एंड दैट इज व्हाट रोल डज एम्पैथी प्ले in understanding and resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now here the question is just not about that you have to give views on how an Israel-Palestine conflict can be resolved. A very emotional human aspect, considering the feeling of empathy, is being asked. Over here, how you will be framing the answers? Let's talk about that. So yes, newspaper articles or your historical works or your whatever the reports that say, they do talk about कि कैसे resolve किया जाता है, but when we talk about empathy, what does it come in your mind when you have first-hand information about how the people are suffering, right? And how do you get reference to that? Of course, there are still not memoirs or they're not biographies that we can get a hold of the Palestinians or the Israel, whoever is suffering in this war. So how can we frame the answer? Let's have a look at this. We'll just repeat the question again. Just look at the question again. What role does empathy play in understanding and resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict? So the key words over here is empathy, understanding, and how the Israel-Palestine conflict can be resolved. Moving ahead, let us look at the answer that does not give much of your, you can say, literary references. Nahi hai, just a second. Okay, literary references nahi hai yahan pe. So a very good answer. It's a good answer, but isme weightage kahan par hai? Let's look at that. The Israel-Palestine conflict stems from historical grievances, territorial disputes, competing national aspirations. Key issues include borders, Jerusalem status, refugees, right of return, and security. Okay, so you are just framing, giving a good introduction. Okay, it's something that is out there. We all know. A good start to your answer. A solution demands, just a second, sorry. So over here, sorry, just a second. A solution demands mutual recognition, adherence to international law, and confidence building, measure like halting settlement, expansion, the international community must remain neutral, supporting coexistence over division. Okay, you are giving a very generic answer in a way that, there's something, is there any element of empathy? Are you, uh, uh, can we see that any iota of empathy is being shared here? Any degree of feelings or thoughts are being shared here? Now, ultimately, peace requires empathy and compromise, recognizing the shared humanity of both sides for a just and lasting resolution. This is a kind of a statement that you're making, an answer that you're giving regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict, in which you are giving a generic answer, a good answer, which will fetch you marks. But what is the level of empathy? How can you get empathy in your answers? When you give a reference to the events similar to this that have happened and that have been recounted in stories, in documents, in fiction, or that have been dramatized in arts, anywhere. So that is an answer that makes it substantial, wherein you're giving a legitimacy. You're validating your answer, giving a reference to the books that have already been written, a first-hand information about the accounts that have already been written. And when we talk about Israel-Palestine conflict, what does click your mind? Of course, the atrocities of the Second World War, when the Jews were subjected to the same harassment, when the Jews were the ones who were the victims, right? So let's go ahead and look at the answer, which can be written when you are giving literary references. Okay, let's have a look at that. So, yeah, talking about next one over here. All right. So here we have an answer that is giving reference to literary works. Talking about this, the Israel-Palestine conflict is a profound human tragedy rooted in history and identity. Okay, a start to your sentence. And then we're talking about empathy, we're talking about feelings. Let's talk about this. It echoes the struggle depicted in the diary of Anne Frank and Knight, which highlight the devastating impacts of displacement and war on ordinary lives. You are taking the first-hand information that was given by Anne Frank in her diary, a very popular work, and that is the diary of Anne Frank, under the fictional word Knight, that actually talked about the horrors. Over here, if you have good amount of knowledge about English literature, you can go on and on talking about so many aspects, so many works that revolve around the entire Second World War. And we know that there have been numerous works across the globe, especially European literature, and so on, right? So these stories emphasize the importance of empathy, a quality essential for resolving this conflict. How do you get empathy? You do not get empathy by mugging scientific questions or by mugging mathematical formulations. You get empathy when you read, when you understand people, when you understand the circumstances, and empathy is a must for the future civil servants of our country, isn't it? So talking about that, the absurdity of prolonged violence as captured in Catch-22, that's by Joseph Heller, mirrors the failure of peace negotiations. Okay, so you can make your answer, formulate your answer in any which manner by giving reference to the literary works in order to give a stronger legitimacy, stronger validation to the answer, that vis-a-vis those answers which do not give literary references. This adds a lot of gravitas, this adds a lot of substance to your answer, and that is what gives you an edge. And this is the reason reading English literature, this is the reason the subject English literature plays a profound role. Once you have great in-depth knowledge of this subject, you can frame answers, of course, of your optional subject, that is English literature, as well as it gives you great weightage in your GS paper 1. And that is the reason that all students who opt for English literature always have an edge over other students, right? So solution requires addressing core issues like borders, refugees, while fostering stories and writings remind us that peace arises from understanding and shared humanities. And this is how you are molding your answers in a manner wherein you are giving a sort of a reference के ऐसा हो सकता है, because we have seen things in the past and we all know that how answers can be framed, because it is the same situation that is here. How answers can be framed by giving references. All right, it can be a very better framed answer. I'm just giving you an example regarding this. So this is something that I want to discuss. Well, if we talk about GS paper, yes, of course, it plays a huge role, but it also, the knowledge of English literature plays a pivotal role in your interviews as well. So many times you are expected to know English literature for granted. You are, of course, expected to know Shakespeare. We all know who he was. Expected to know Charles Dickens, George Eliot, T.S. Eliot, all those legendary figures. It is taken for granted that you will have that knowledge. A lot of students, considering that the amount of syllabus that they have for UPSC, they do not give that focus. नहीं दे पाते literature को. But when you opt for English literature as a subject, for sure you have complete full knowledge. Let's go ahead with one good example. For instance, you were asked in your exam regarding the question, India's struggle for freedom was not just political but also cultural. Can you elaborate on this with examples? Now, when you talk about culture, you talk about the lived realities of the people of that period, right? जब हम culture की बात करते हैं तो हम क्या बात करेंगे? Do you think that how was the freedom fought? Of course, politically. But what about the books? What about Isma Chugdai, Premchand, Manto, and what about Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao? All these, when you are equipped with the knowledge of literature, you have all the ability, you have all the faculty to frame your answer in a way which actually impresses the interviewees, right? So, candidate's response, it can be, India's freedom movement, I'm just giving you that, in a manner wherein you are talking about India's freedom movement, indeed, had a strong cultural dimension. Literature, especially during the colonial period, played a very important role. Rabindranath Tagore ka Gitanjali ka example de sakte hain. There are 100 examples that you can give. I just quoted a few. For instance, George, so over here, when you're talking about this, you can also talk about that how George Orwell in 1984 thought not Indian critics totalitarian regimes mirroring the oppression faced during colonial rule. You can talk about European literature, you can talk about George Orwell, you can talk about Indian writers, you can talk about anything that can frame your answer in a manner which shows that yes, you have a good substantial knowledge of the world literature, of the Indian literature, and how you can frame it in a right manner and right approach. This actually gives you an edge. And we know that how whatever you read, whatever you do, not only read, whatever you do in life, even if you are a singer, a dancer, a reader, a literate person, it reflects on your face, it reflects on your body language. The sharpness that you get, the smartness that you get, the confidence that you get when you have good knowledge of not only the subject that you're studying, but of the literary works. It shows in your personality. Okay, so that is a very, very important aspect, that why English literature plays a pivotal role in shaping you, making you prepared as a civil servant. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to talk to my students about, that how, it's how important it is that literature gives you an edge. So talking about this, just a second. Yes. So guys, talking about this, for instance, historical context, literature often reflects the socio-political. We know the socio-political scenario is always reflected, enriching answers with depth. Diary of Anne Frank use कर सकते हैं. There's so many. There poets अगर हम बात करें, Wilfred Owen है, Siegbert Sassoon है. All those poets can be talked about. T.S. Eliot can be talked about. W.B. Yeats, all these poets, these modern writers, they have prolifically written about First World War, Second World War. With this knowledge, excellent answers can be made, something that cannot be refuted. So, empathy and humanity, referencing literature. Sorry. So, over here, when we talk about this, just a second. Yeah, so referring literary works demonstrate a deep understanding of human suffering and resilience. For instance, the Kite Runner, Khalid Hosseini, if you have not read it, a wonderful piece of work, must read it. So you can always give reference of great literary works, frame your answer well. So this is the importance of literature when we talk about how English literature plays a pivotal role for your selection as a civil servant in the UPSC exam. Okay. How are you going to go ahead with the course? Let's talk about it. So I'll just show it to you in a way कि आप कैसे साइट पे जाके इस कोर्स को परचेज कर सकते हो, because we are starting with the course on 15 January. So let's go ahead with that. So over here आपने StudyIQ में लिखा, StudyIQ.com लिखा, you will reach a page जहाँ पे UPSC का आपके पास होम पेज आ जाएगा. So now crack UPSC, CSC, GS with StudyIQ. Over here you have it, and then the entire thing is given. यहाँ पे आपका है UPSC optional live. This is the course. I hope it's visible to everyone. UPSC optional course. It is just at the leftmost corner of your screen. So over here you will click over here. Explore courses में आप जाएंगे, and you can see. Just look at this. You have UPSC optional live, because this is an optional English literature subject, live. And then there is a small arrow over here. You will click to that, and here is my course. This is my course. You can click on this. The course presently is for 18,749. There is a discount running of at least 51% off. You can use my code ARLIVE. Go ahead, you will get a good discount. कोर्स शुरू हो रहा है 15 जनवरी से 2025. In just a couple of days we will be starting. Once this course gets started, then of course the prices will increase. Today you're getting a very slash rate. So anyway, so going ahead with this, the course is online and you can get the entire content. 1 p.m. the class will start, and over here you can see every information that you need. I have my syllabus uploaded, how I'll be going ahead with that, how what is my pedagogy, how we'll be going ahead with that. Everything is told in a great detail. Okay, so this is about the course and this is about me, and I would love to hear more about how English literature can help you in different ways. I've talked about a lot more, that yes, it builds your personality and it reflects in your writing, in your speech, in your demeanor, how you behave, in every aspect of your life, and of course in your thinking. It broadens your vision towards life. So thank you everyone, and I will see you in the class.